And my first question would be to Bharath, you, right? So while we talk about ecosystem players, platform providers, startups and all, right? And enterprises are working with them closely, day in and day out. But on the ground, sometimes it appears that speed to that co-innovation is slower than it is actually expected. Maybe because of the legacy mindset, maybe because of the processes and structures. So what do you think are the key pillars to drive success from an enterprise standpoint and inculcate those changes?
Hello? Yeah. I think it's a very most often asked question. And at Walmart, we have a program called Sparkubate. And we deal with a lot of emerging startups, capabilities, or sometimes partners as well, because we believe startups can give us speed, and we believe platforms can actually give us capability, and we believe partners can give us context that we may not even know because we are so head down in focusing on our priority. One of the big learnings that we have had, where a lot of times we may not be able to move at the speed with which we want to catalyze our business value, is when we start with the pilot, we are at a much faster pace because we want to learn, fail fast, try to make progress. But during the course of time, what we have realized is how do you integrate the teams into the whole journey is very critical. For example, there is a mindset shift that we need to make. Not treat startups as a vendor who is offering a service, but treat startup as a partner who you really want to bring them along. So that's the first mindset shift. Second, there are some structural changes that you have to do, wherein bring dedicated people who can oversee the entire program management of how a startup can be integrated, whether it is compliance related challenges, because more often than not, we are heavily focused on use case driven ideations, but we may not thought about what does it mean to scale for thousands of stores or millions of customers or thousands of associates. The moment we start to add the scale, compliance, ethics, privacy, everything starts to come into picture. So for us to move faster, even after we have done the pilot, bring the mindset shift, bring people along so that you test and learn and make sure that the teams are dedicatedly focused on eliminating the barrier and trying to make progress. We have been successful. There have been some good examples within Walmart ecosystem where we have been able to onboard our startup partners, and we have been able to see an instant value coming from the business. And that's worked wonder for us, and we have learned over a period of time. Sparkubate has been there for multi-years, and we are happy to say that we have matured significantly.
Sure. So I think that actually speaks about the quantum of programs which Walmart is driving on innovation. On that similar context, Udit, my question would be to you, because we are talking about scalability, being enterprise ready, and you have been closely working also with early stage startups and developers, right? So there is this new theme of being platform native. Help us understand that beyond cost, which definitely this model would be solving for, what are the other benefits the startups get from being platform native to become enterprise ready?
Okay, interesting question. Think about it from which side we are coming, right? Now, we are a company which caters to enterprises also, which caters to startups also. Now, if I think from an enterprise perspective, scalability, reliability, I think security, these are big, big things in their mind. And if I talk to a startup, the only thing that they have in mind is consumer, customer, innovation, and the speed. That's where it is, right? And we have to cater to both of them, as well as, I think what you're asking, we have to bridge the path between both of them also, which we do many times, right? Now, if I think about cloud as a service, right? And when I joined Google a couple of years back, I was also coming from the non-cloud background. The first thing that I remember, I will not shy away from saying that, we used to treat cloud as a landlord of a servers, okay? Who's giving you rental servers. That's how people used to think cloud was, right? That's the first fundamental change people have to do. that it's not about startups or enterprises, all of us, that cloud is no more a landlord of a servers. The first thing that cloud brings, or at least the cloud native platforms brings is, it's like your technical co-founder, I would say. That's the right word. Because it brings you obviously an infrastructure part, which is very, very critical for any business to run, but we forget the other pieces which are important. It brings your capabilities of the core engineering, core data platforms, core AI platforms. I don't think anybody can have a discussion without talking about AI. Core security platform. So think about a technical co-founder which is helping you to bridge those gaps. So that is the first fundamental change that I think I've seen as a mindset change, that it is not no more a infrastructure player, and which we have seen it's happening in the industry also. Now coming back to your point, right? From a cloud, let's say I'm talking about Google Cloud as a platform, what we offer, what we see. The first thing that I say is, what these platforms will enable, apart from managing the infrastructure cost, is they'll make these startups enterprise ready from day one. I think that's the first and fundamental thing. And the reason I'm saying this is because I have also done my own startup, so I know how difficult it is to sell to large enterprises, and everybody has their own reasons for it. But imagine, I'll talk about a startup recently. The startup is a healthcare startup, and they are building a solution where they transcribe the doctor and a patient interaction, which is not a legal thing in India, but in US you have to do these things. So they record those transcriptions. This company is very innovative. This startup is doing this, but they can't sell in US, because if you have to sell in US, it's not about the technology only. You need to make sure you have all the compliance layers coming in. Now, once they come into this platform, many of those things are taken care of. So if you think from a startup perspective, when you start very fresh, you are starting from zero. But if you have these platforms helping you, not like a infrastructure provider, you may be starting from 40 or 50 to start with. That's the first piece. The second piece that I have seen is, which I think we all know, scalability. Again, I would like to bring another mindset change. When we talk of scalability, I'm talking to a lot of startup founders. The first thing that they have in mind of scalability, oh, I'll go for 10,000 users to 1 million users, add more VMs, I'm done. That is not the scalability we are talking. That I think is, everybody knows about it. It's a, I would say, a table stakes. The scalability that is critical right now is to make sure that your capability is scaling up. Whether it's the data processing layer, whether it's the innovation pace, whether it's the AI layer, right? I'll give you another example of this thing recently. There's one startup which is, I was talking to two companies. I can't name it for obvious reasons, but there's a large enterprise which has a team of 200 plus data scientists, which is very, very rare. But I've seen it, we were also surprised, but 200 plus data scientists. And the person who was leading that group, this person was struggling to find the real use cases and obviously bring a lot of impact there. And here's another startup, which is a 20-member team with only 2 data scientists. Okay? And he was talking about what kind of products they'll bring. They were in the same space. They were trying to bridge both of them. Then I realized this startup, what the best thing that I saw in this startup is, obviously they have 20-member team, but they were leveraging the entire platform in a way that they're solving the customer problems. Now let me sell my platform to here if I'm coming here, but think about it. Google has a platform called Vertex AI. Now, if you are a startup, you're using that Vertex AI platform, you have an access to more than 200 models. It doesn't matter whether you use Google model or non-Google model. And then you have an entire data layer sitting there on the back, and obviously a security layer. And then you have a data science agent which can solve certain things which your human agent, I'm not saying human agent, the human person will be taking a couple of hours. So you bring all these things together, this startup can solve this thing really well. Sure. And the third piece is obviously the global reach. So we have our marketplace solutions where we can bring these startups from day one. I know we were discussing in the other room that recently what happened to a lot of gaming companies with the regulations change. Now many of these companies are thinking of going global right now. Now imagine you're a startup which was playing in India right now for the last 5 years. And today you wake up and you have to go global. The first thing, obviously, you have to find the markets and where you have to go. But from a technology layer perspective also, you should be ready from day one. So that is what these platforms enable. So I would say definitely enterprise ready, scalability in a different form, and obviously the global reach. These three things are important.
Thank you. This is quite.
I'll just add one point,
Yeah.
Like being on the other side, whenever we try to evaluate any kind of, startups, we look at reach and we look at depth. those two are the parameters we look at. And the definition of scale has evolved over a period of time. Earlier, the scale was the number of users, but now the scale is the number of business value we are able to create. And for us, having those early adoption and early integration is so critical because not every startup may have understood the market so well. And we being the customer or the consumer of certain products, we start to help them understand these are the breadth and these are the depth. And that's when the maturity of certain startups will start to become more and more. So actively being in the industry and trying to understand the depth and the reach is very critical for any startup.
Got it. So we have been hearing from enterprise and platform providers. Now let's hear from you, Raghav, right? The startup side, right? So definitely being a founder, product market fit would be non-negotiable for you as a capability. But like they mentioned, right? Scalability, depth, breadth, right? Compliance, integration. So what are some of the core capabilities which you feel should always be the focus for startup founders like you?
Sure. Again, that's a very interesting question, right? So we started almost 3.5, 4 years back. The first 1 year, the whole interest was to ensure we build the right product, which means, get to 8, 10 customers, then you claim your PMF, and then nobody can stop you, right? And then one fine day, once we started engaging with enterprises, one thing that we realized is that PMF is just an entry pass for you, right? There are a few things that you need to know or you'll need to solve to get to an enterprise. Right? One is the compliance part, right? And for example, enterprises like Walmart would never ever trade their brand equity for, innovation which doesn't have security, right? Irrespective of how good your product is. So I think then going back to the drawing table and ensuring your SOC, GDPR, right, whatever compliances are needed, and whoever needs to certify, right, the topmost authority for it, ensuring that is taken care, which means, compliance becoming a feature rather than, having a, thought post the product build is one thing which clearly makes a difference if you want to ensure, you become part of the ecosystem or work with enterprises. The second, again, not so much spoken thing is on the integrations front, right? What we ship is not an algorithm, right? You will need to ensure you build a product that sits seamlessly into the whole ecosystem of enterprises. And ecosystem of enterprises would typically have a lot of legacy tools also, right? You will have to build product in such a way that integrations become seamless, which means your whole seamlessly getting into the ecosystem of enterprises is so easy that enterprises would be willing to bet on you, right? Because you are not taking 8 months to figure out if it's working or not, rather you are figuring out all of this in, say, a couple of months. So again, so integrations is having that integration DNA is the second most important one. Finally, I would say the third one, which is again, not many companies usually focus very, very early on, because the focus is always in building the product the right way. What gets missed out is building the relationship with the enterprise, right? So any enterprise from an early stage startup standpoint would start from a pilot standpoint. And getting into a pilot doesn't mean winning a deal, right? You will have to get into pilot, and then that's one entry point for you to ensure you build trust with, say, enterprise for over a period of, say, next 1-2 quarters. So I think building or having the kind of partnership mindset would definitely help. Never ever make it much transactional, right? Ensure it is an extension to your team, which means you co-innovate with enterprise. How much ever you build product in your office, you will always have a lot of corner cases that you can build only with customers, right? And being very transparent on what's working, what's not working, right? So I would say in addition to PMF, typically what needs to be taken care if you want to crack an enterprise customer is obviously the compliance. The second is having the right integration mindset, and third is treating the whole engagement as a partnership rather than making it transactional. I think these were some of the hard learnings that we figured out very late, but yeah.
So I think the thoughts shared are kind of getting echoed across, right? So on that note, Bharath, my next question would be to you. While talking about such partnerships, aiming for scalability, being enterprise ready, often we also wonder like how to balance between the speed and the security or compliance, right? So what are your thoughts? If you can share some quick snippets of your journey, how you have balanced those?
I think biggest learning that we have seen is when we get to a stage of scaling any startup that we believe has the right value and they have been able to integrate really seamlessly, that is when we start to bolt them with a lot of compliance related things. which is at a very later stage, and that slows down the entire process. So irrespective whether a startup is able to get to the final mile and we are able to bring them on board, one of the piece that we are doing very differently is start to create a parallel track of hypothetically if this startup is actually going to get incubated with us and we will make them as a partner, or we will start to have some kind of licensing or any kind of engagement model, how do we make sure that we mitigate all of the factors that will derail us from getting to the end state? So we do have dedicated teams who look at the compliance process, the procurement process. I think that's a big process that takes a lot of time. I'm sure Raghavendra will allude to the fact that the amount of documentation, the amount of back and forth that happens is massively high, because every enterprise have to safeguard their own interest. And typically, he did talk about one piece. When you're a startup, you're not thinking about every aspect of what it means to have a scalable enterprise solution. Compliance, integration, privacy, ethics, everything will become a must-have. So what we are trying to do differently is parallel path. Make sure that you are not waiting for the value to be created, and get everything set in a way that if anything gets activated, you're not losing time. Because end of the day, the value lost is an opportunity cost for the enterprise. And we really don't want to kind of invest in something where we lost the opportunity.
So I have a pointer there, and this question would be for you, Udit, right? So while he is talking about value, right? So I think any enterprise would aim that they finally become transformative through this path of innovation. Now, during this journey, multiple bottlenecks may come, like maybe legacy integration issues, compliance security, like Bharath was mentioning, how he has scoped up and all. So can you give us one success story where a startup would have enabled an enterprise with this transformation journey, and they have actually leapfrogged to be, like enterprise ready, have been scalable, and may have been also platform native at the same point in time? I know it's a little complex, 3-4 pillars I have mentioned for you, but if you can share.
Maybe I'll not name the startup,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it's very closer to our home.
Yeah.
One of the largest banks of the country, they were going through a transformation phase, and they were saying they want to reimagine the customer journey, right? And with all due respect to the company and the talent that they have, and they tried a lot of different things, but they were not able to go any far in their own efforts, right? And obviously they were our customer too, so we were also engaged with them. And then they mentioned about this, that they're looking for a customer transformation journey. Now, if you think about it, right, if I believe Google Cloud as a platform, right, one approach is, okay, we have all these technologies available, and your team can use it and build a solution, right? Very easy way. But it works very well for startup customers because they're very hands-on and they're good. And obviously for enterprises, there are many other priorities too. Now in this case, then we brought one startup which has this entire customer experience platform, right from the acquisition to the post, I would say, post-transaction, right? So it has an entire end-to-end journey platform. The first thing is making sure that we know this capability of the startup, and they were also on our platform, so it's like platform from a native perspective. But the biggest challenge that we faced was this startup was trying this customer on their own, with their own siloed solution. That we have this, we have the best technology in the world, and as you rightly said, it doesn't work this way, right? And if we go and we'll say that, oh, we have the best tech stack, you go and please fix it, make it, that also doesn't work. So that's where the marriage happens. Yes. We said, okay, we both have seen this challenge, and this customer needs it because that's the largest bank of India. So they need to go and do this transformation journey. That's where we joined hands. We understood their product. We knew the tech stack. We said, okay, let's jointly pitch. That's the first thing that we did. And I think, and then if I think Bharath already said that, enterprise customer have certain other things in their mind, more than tech that we are going to bring, right? All the pain point that they will be facing from their top bosses. So we made sure that we made all those tick points, trust, security, compliance is a big issue. The biggest issue was, I am sharing you the customer data, how will you take care of it? That's the biggest thing in any CIO or a CDO mind, right? So we kind of managed to make sure that those things are addressed and then started building it. Initially, we thought it will be done in 3 months. That's what startup said. We can make it happen in 3 months. But to all our surprises, it took at least 8 months. But the good thing is we were able to build that journey, which I think as a consumer, we all are using it right now. So I'm so proud that at least we can able to do. But the reason why we were able to do this together, so we have a speed, agility, innovation of that startup, and thus, I would say, a problem-solving mindset. Then we have a tech layer coming in with platform layer, which is helping to solve the pain point from the other side. And then when you marry both the things together, I think magic happens. So that's where this thing happened. And now this startup is going to a lot of global clients with us because they are in our marketplace, and they're doing really well there. Yeah.
Great. So mindset first and then technology, both together, success. Okay. So Raghavendra, one very candid question for you now, and please be as honest as possible. So while we are hearing from both Bharath and Udit that these are the yardsticks of success metrics and all, but you tell us, and with all transparency, what you really think, you really wish that the enterprises would have thought differently, and which would have been way better for any startup to work with enterprises.
I can close my ears.
No, I think you should hear to this.
Yeah.
But again, this is from our experience of working with a few enterprises, right? Particularly the larger ones like, say, Walmart, for example. Few things that can really work well is one, most of them have innovation units within the organizations that work with external partners as well, right? But not many of them are active, though they have budgets, very honestly. It is always largely inward looking, right? Which makes it much tougher for startups to get into enterprise side of things. That's one. Second, the process once you get into an innovation program, for example. Bharath, in fact, stressed on that point of having few things run parallelly, right? Which is again missing in a lot of companies. So if your whole cycles run from, say, 3 to 4 quarters, by the time, the startup's bandwidth is not as much, right? You do not have the leverage to run with, say, some 3-4 large enterprises doing pilots, say, for 1 year. I think if you can parallelize a few things like, for example, particularly in our case, I can be open here, right? What Walmart helped us was that while we were building the functional side product, deployment was happening, they gave us the leeway to work on the compliance side also in parallel. So there are a couple of things that we started building from compliance side while we were deploying on the functional side, right? We also had exposure to the procurement side of things. So I think having parallel exposure would help us move faster, right? Instead of, say, 4 quarters, it could have come down to, say, 2 quarters, for example. I think a lot of companies miss that approach. Internally, you might have a very linear way of progressing things, but when you get an external startup, if you can parallelize, that really helps. One final point, again, Bharath touched upon it, which is the procurement side, right? The procurement is still a lot of gray area for us, right? Given the layers and, a lot of to and fro happens there. I think having slightly more simpler approach, again, we completely understand enterprises do not want to risk anything on the security front, compliance front. I think barring that, rest of the things, if it can be fastened a bit, it will help us, work much closer with enterprises. Otherwise, we are all measured on month-on-month numbers, right? And then if you get stuck in a company for, say, 10 or 12 months, and if that happens with 3-4 companies, right, and given capital is very, very limited initially, right, it becomes really challenging to co-build solutions. But I think the 2-3 points that I said have been changing in the past. Clearly, Walmart is one such example. We have also seen some companies try out that approach.
Sure. So I think the summary is structured, well-planned programs. Multi-tracks. Okay, cool. So we'll try to take some questions from the audience, and let me pick some. Okay, so there is this question from Ramesh Babu, if you can raise your hand from the audience. Ramesh, so these questions are from this audience, or? Okay. But I don't see any Ramesh Babu in the audience, so not sure. Okay. Shubham Raj? Okay. Anyways, maybe some. Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask the questions. Okay. So how can GCCs balance their traditional operational excellence with the new expectation to drive innovation and transformation in an uncertain global landscape? So, I mean, all of you can share your insights because this is a very apt question. It talks about the uncertainty in terms of things happening in and around us, right? So what are your thoughts, like how GCCs would typically balance in this situation and strive for operational excellence?
I think I can speak from a mindset standpoint. We do believe that startup gives us the speed, and in this current environment, you may not be able to do organic innovation, and you'll not be able to identify value creation at every point of your organizational setup. You also need an outward-inward perspective. So having that mindset to say that hey, we really want to have a partner who will help us to accelerate by giving us the speed, who is also able to give us a context that we may not be aware, because I'm just taking a simple example. Right now we are at the whole crux of AI. Not everyone would have spent time to optimize the model or train the model to larger use cases. But if there are certain startups where they have gone to the depth, they have spent time, they have matured the model that is easy for us to jump on the bandwagon, we would always want to jump onto it. Like for me to get there, it's an opportunity cost lost. And you spoke about uncertainty.
Yes.
Innovation is one of the bigger drivers for us to deal with uncertainty.
Okay.
I think I would like to add one thing here, especially in the AI side of things, right? What we have seen, at least since last year versus this year, when this AI wave was coming, right? Every enterprise wants to do something on AI. But one thing what we have seen is that all the enterprises were trying to solve on their own. So I think with all due respect, you can always build models on your own. But generally, I have seen this year, this trend is changing. Now they're getting into the partnership mindset. Obviously, there will be a build element, but more around the partnership side of things. Because the urgency of delivering the outcome is coming up now. Right? We can do a lot of experiments, but if somebody has already built a model, why you want to build a model on your own? You can always play around with this. We can feel good about it, but I think to solve the enterprise problems, agility and speed is key now. And the board is also asking the same questions, right? What you have done in the last 1 year? Where are the outcomes coming in from AI initiatives? So that's one change that we have seen now, and that's where we are seeing results happening. Otherwise, earlier there were a lot of POCs. I know there were a lot of reports coming globally, but those POCs have become real because now it's more of business outcome led, and then rather than worrying about a R&D or academic led. So that's where I think we have seen a bigger amount of change, especially in the enterprises in the AI world. And obviously, couple of companies have done these kind of work in solving the real business problems. I'll give you, if you have one more question, 30 seconds. One startup in India, they're solving a relocation problem. Okay. In Bangalore, tell me one thing, customers would ask for a person to come to your home to inspect all the items at your house. It's not an easy thing, huh? And what they found, in the whole week, everybody will ask for a person to come on weekends. Because in Bangalore, everybody is working for 5 days. Imagine how this startup will solve this. They have a limited set of people. Every weekend, you will have thousands of customers asking for this, and they don't have 1,000 of people. Even if they align one person for 5 customers, this person can cover 2 or 3 maximum on a weekend in Bangalore. So they build technology with us, AI technology, where a customer will simply put his mobile phone, roam around the mobile phone across the home, 3-bedroom apartment. AI will generate the yellow slip that your actual person does it. And you'll not believe, it looks like a very simple problem. Okay, you do this and you will scan how many chairs, how many sofas and beds are there. But the moment you move the mobile like this, and the moment you move the mobile like this, it will count twice. That's how technology works. It took us 2 months to work with them, but the solution is live. And finally, they were able to repurpose their team, 90% of the team, for something else. And customers are happy. By sitting at home, they just do it. But it happened only when they had this approach of solving it together rather than solving it on your own.
So on the flip side, because we are talking about so much of being remote and Bangalore location and travel problems, there is a question I can already see. So people are saying that there is so much focus on cloud and remoteness. Why not tech teams also be, again, shifting back to hybrid models and working from home models? I can see one question, so I just thought of, like on a lighter note mentioning that. Would you want to take it up, Bharath?
I think simple and standard answer. We believe in in-person culture.
Yes.
Very textbook kind of answer. And I think, see, there is value in both being together, solving for a problem, and if you want to go fast, accelerate, having those in-person culture is definitely out there.
Makes sense.
And our CEO believes in it, and we believe in it as well.
I'll probably, one point to add there is it is also stage dependent, I think. Right? Early stage, for example, in our case, unless people are together, it becomes really challenging, to figure out things. Having said that, I personally believe in hybrid approach, right? You don't, because there's a lot of, mental space that you'll need to do things. And then there's a collaboration angle also. So I think it is good to have 2 to 3 days of dedicated time in office, and then if there's a lot of for example, tech guys might need a lot of coding to be done, which is their own private space, right? If such things can happen remotely, I think it's still okay. I think future, to me, it looks like it is much more hybrid, but stage-wise, early stage, you will see a lot more companies wanting people to come together and work, maybe as they mature.
That's how partnerships thrive.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think we are good in terms of the time. We would not be taking any more questions. So a closing note, thank you everyone for being part of this session. So what we understood as a summary of this session is speed and compliance are not opposing forces, and they can be harmonized if the right set of mindset is there, processes and tech stack are there, and structures are in place, right? And also we feel like emerging themes like being platform native is very, very important. Integration is one of the key backbones, which is a make or deal breaker or not, right? So with that, let's hope to be more collaborative in future. Thank you all.